What's up, everybody? Welcome to this introduction to StrangeStream, a live webcam compositing app built on Unreal 4. StrangeStream allows you to composite your webcam footage into a video game grade 3D scene. A lot of people like to use images and videos in the backgrounds of their stream. That's cool, but it's not cool enough. And it's strangely interactive. We decided to fix that situation. So in the background here, you can see I have a thing, and it looks like a static image because it's not moving around, but I am in fact inside a 3D world. And I have full control over the 3D world, and I got a bunch of cameras set up, and I can move the cameras around, and I can behave like I am inside my 3D world with my green screen in the background. I'm using a real minimal green screen setup. I have a piece of green cloth behind me. I got about 6 square feet of space. I got a medium grade gaming PC, and I'm using my phone, a cheap Samsung, which is coming in through an application called IV-Cam, but you can use any application that will turn your phone into a virtual webcam. So I'm going to show you how to set up this scene and a bunch of other scenes. This is content that we are going to provide with StrangeStream. A lot of it is from Marketplace, a lot of it is free. We're going to provide a bunch of content, but we also hope to open up StrangeStream to the Steam Workshop for the modding community to start building their own content, so that as an Unreal user, you can create content and get it to other users via the workshop and get it into StrangeStream and use it for your own streams. Build your custom shit. Alright, so let's move on to the tutorials. When you boot StrangeStream for the first time, you will be greeted with this handsome front-end menu. This is a little intro for your edification, but nobody reads text, so you can get rid of it by just clicking on it. No sweat. First thing we're going to want to do is create a scene. So up here in Scene Manage, I'm going to go hit that. These are all my save files, which we'll get into later, but I'm going to hit New Scene. Now these are the pre-authored scenes that at the moment we have with StrangeStream, and I'm going to choose one. I'm going to choose the Cyberpunk room, and I'm going to go Create Scene. And here is the Cyberpunk room. Now I can use right-click drag, or actually I can use either mouse button to look around, and I can use the game controls WASD to move around and Q and E to go up and down. So this is a scene that was available for free in the Unreal Marketplace, and I've tidied it up a little bit and relit it, but it's pretty much as it was. And it's pretty cool. We got like a computer rig over here, and we got a bunch of bottles of V beer, the irony. And I put a scene outside so you can see some nice dusky future city in the background, and we got a lounge area over there, and a tiny sleeping quarters, which is all that people in the future are supposed to require. So the first thing I want to do is save this scene as a new scene. So I'm going to go to Scene Manage, Save as New. I'm going to call it Testy Test number 1. That's made a new file, Testy Test number 1, and that's cool. We can now proceed without fear of failure. So I'm going to go back to Scene Edit, which is where we set up the items in the scene. The first thing we're going to want to do is place a video billboard in the scene. This is a single 3D plane with the video texture put on it, and it is classed as a target object in StrangeStream. There are 3 kinds of object: target objects, controller objects, which control the target objects, and static objects, which are just things you put in the scene and then leave alone. Set dressing, props, if you will. So to place a video billboard, I'm going to go to Target Objects and hit the plus button. There are 2 ways of creating target objects. Number 1 is hitting the plus button, which will create a target object somewhere in front of your camera. Or you can right-click on the scene and hit Create Target Object, and it will create it wherever you put your mouse cursor. Actually, I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to go click on the ground behind here, click here, right-click here, and hit Create Target Object. Then I'm going to select Video Billboard from the array of target objects that we have. I'm going to hit Accept, and lo and behold, my handsome face is on a video billboard inside the scene. So this is great, but obviously I'm on the floor, and it is not green screened out. It's just a video of stuff in the background, which is awful and wrong, and it needs to be killed with fire. So this leads us on to video management. Video manage is the area of the application where you deal with your source video and the green screen parameters and tweaking the image to your satisfaction. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the color of my green screen. It's already set up for me, but I'm going to do it again for demonstration purposes. I'm going to hit this eyedropper here. I'm going to move over, and I'm not going to select the brightest part or the darkest part, but I'm going to select an intermediate part, and that should, you can see it's already started working here. The background is now cut out, and I'm living in my 3D world, and that's great. We'll go through a few more things in the video manage screen. The chroma bounds are just like a gain on the chroma efficacy, and I can tweak those up and down until I got the correct values. You see there I got some folds in my green screen over there. I wonder if I could move my camera a little bit. It might never be possible to completely frame out your green screen perfectly, so for that reason we got a bunch of controls over here which will help you do that. Up at the top, we got some things to do with the image quality. Image add, which is just like adding value to the image. That can be useful. Image multiply, where you can make yourself, I am the chosen one. You can make yourself real bright. But you can just use that in a more mild fashion to just give yourself a bit of extra pop on screen. Now, the material that the video billboard is using is material that's physically lit inside the scene. So I've added this control image emissive because with no emissive, the video billboard simply takes on the light of the scene. And as you can see, as I turn around, the video billboard is facing some different lights and it can get real dark. Now, this might be something you want. Obviously, this is correctly lit for this point in the scene, but it doesn't look very cool. So I can use the image emissive to inject some glow into the image. Again, I am the chosen one. Let me just light myself up a little bit there. And that's looking pretty cool. All these commands here are for framing the video, so I can scale on the horizontal axis. I can scale on the vertical axis if you want to lose a few pounds. I can also offset on the horizontal and offset on the vertical. And this can be useful if, like me, you got a few folds that you can't frame out of your image. So that was fine. I'm going to reset all those to 0 and 1 because my image is looking pretty good. I've also got image rotation. Alpha version, I'll be saying that a lot. Alpha version disclaimer, the image rotation does not correspond to degrees. I think it's in radians, but 180 degrees is 3.15 for some reason. We'll fix that. Shouldn't be a problem. We'll deal with it. But yeah, you can rotate your image around and get it how you like it. So, source video coming in, tweaked video coming out. It's on the video billboard. The video billboard is in the scene. This is cool. We'll go back to scene edit. I'll show you how to move the video billboard around. To move the video billboard around, you need to activate the transform mode. There's a couple of ways of doing this. If you right click in the scene, any objects that you can interact with will be picked up and will give you extra options. So the video billboard here is showing its options, and one of those is the transform object. This is also duplicated up on the target objects list if you ever get lost. If you ever get real lost, you can use the F button to focus on any object. Like, oh no, I have moved my camera outside the screen and I have no idea where I am. F button, and it'll focus back onto the object, so you shouldn't get lost in the scene. So I'm going to activate transform mode, and this is the transform gizmo, and it's got a few key commands of its own. Which I will go into a little later because the video billboard only supports being moved and scaled. But I'm dragging on this, I'm moving it around, and I'm just going to get it like, I reckon I want my camera kind of here. That's kind of nice. And that's fine. I'm hitting space to toggle between the modes on the gizmo. Rotate's not supported on the billboard because the billboard always faces the camera on the horizontal axis. You can see that it will do this, which is not desirable. But if I rotate around, it will follow. It's just a flat plane that's always following the camera. But I can scale it. So I'm going to scale it here. Make myself giant. Oh no, I took the red pill. Make myself tiny. But I like myself kind of normal size. So that's fine. I like that there. Click once elsewhere to get rid of that. So that's in place. and that's how to move the video billboard around. So obviously we can see what's going on in the scene and we can move around, and that's great, but really you want to put in a camera. And you want to animate the camera, and you want to have the camera doing its own thing. You don't want to have to manually move it around with these views. So this is the edit camera, and we're going to put in an actual camera. Again, camera is a target object, so I'm going to add a target object here. I'm going to select camera, I'm going to hit accept, and there's our camera. We can view through the camera by hitting scene cam. Initially, the camera is pointing off into the distance, the exposure is not set up correctly, and things are generally wrong, and we will fix this right now. A camera is a target object, and it takes data from a controller object. So we must add a controller object. A controller object is not a physical thing in the scene. It is merely a logical entity, and therefore it doesn't live anywhere in the scene. It just lives in this list. So I'm going to call this controller object cam, and then I'm going to assign the target object to the controller object. So over here where it says control, I'm going to select this and hit cam, and the cam suddenly does other stuff, because it's now taking data from the controller object, which is using its defaults. This whole scene is not situated in the middle of the 3D world. The middle of the 3D world is up there where the camera aim point just went to, and that's why it's all the way over there. So we're going to go and fix that. I'm going to go to page edit, which is where you set up all the controllers and all the information for the controllers to pass to the target objects. You always have a default page, and every controller you create is assigned to that default page, but disabled. So I'm going to enable this controller like that. Now you can see that this page has cam assigned to it, and we have all these parameters here to play with. So the first thing, and I must apologize, this is a bug, we're going to correct the tilt of the camera, because if we switch to scene cam now, we can see that the camera is upside down. This will not be the case in the final version, but it's a good excuse for me to show you how to use the tilt controls. All of these parameters have similar controls, but each target object has a different set of parameters. The camera has target movement, zoom, movement, tilt, and exposure. And at the moment, tilt is at 1. Now, in most places in StrangeStream, rotation is from 0 to 1. So 0 is 0, 1 is 360. So at the moment, it's 1 is 180. So at the moment, it's completely turned around. And if you wanted a 90 degree, it'd be 0.5. And if you wanted it at 0, you get to 0. So that's inputting a parameter. And I'm going to go through some of the other parameters. Each parameter has a bunch of similar functions. You can expand these or contract them as you will. But just sticking with tilt for the second, at the moment the input mode is set to static, which means you set the value here at the end point and you leave it and it doesn't do anything, and it's all boring, and we don't want that. So I'm going to switch the input mode from static to curve. Curve introduces this parameter here. We get to select the curve, select the time mode, and we get a little preview of the curve here. We've also got new parameters, speed and offset here. So at the moment, the curve is flat 0, which means it's only reading from the start point of the curve. So if we adjust the start point, that happens, but it's paying no attention to the end value because it's just a flat curve. I'm going to choose a different curve. I'm going to choose a sine curve, and that just goes from side to side. As you can see, that parameter is now animated. You can control the speed of the animation with the speed parameter. I'll leave it down nice and low so that we don't get too spaced out whilst doing this. And you can switch time modes with the time mode drop-down menu. At the moment it's set to loop, and the loop is locked to the global tempo of StrangeStream. StrangeStream supports a global tempo. That lives up here. This is a button. It's actually a tap tempo button. So if I was to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, set that to 148 BPM. And with a speed of 1, you can see, if you notice the flashing and the tilting, they are synced. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The We can also assign control inputs to that, but I'll come to that later. So I'm going to set this to 0.25 of our tempo. So it's nice and slow. Let's go through a few more of the parameters. We've got zoom, which again can be adjusted statically, or we can animate it using a curve. Select curve. I'll use a flutter because it's crazy. And that again, because it's on loop, is synced to the tempo. If I used to use a different time input mode, like one shot, this would only happen once. So we've got that brr, brr, and then it won't do anything. This is triggered every time you trigger this controller by hitting its page button. And nothing. That's a one shot. It will only happen once. I'm going to set that back to static for the moment. Then we got movement and target movement. I'll also set the exposure. Exposure works pretty much the same as those other static parameters. So it's possible to brighten the scene up a little bit, make it not look so dank. Okay, so movement and target movement, which really should be called aim point movement. So I'll refer to it as aim point movement, but I mean target movement. I'm going to go back to the edit camera. And you can see our debug camera. It's pointing off into the distance, and that's great. We can see where it is. But we don't want to have that pointing off into the distance. We can set the initial position of the aim point in scene edit, and then we can animate it later in the page edit. Scene edit is for making initial configuration options where you want everything to start, and then all the information on the parameters of the curves in the controllers will operate from that initial position. So I'm going to change the initial position of the camera and its aim point. Just like with the video billboard, you can move the camera with the transform object. I'm going to put it back a bit here, but the camera also has another option, which is transform object aim point. If I hit that and look over there, it's got a gizmo on the aim point. So I'm going to drag the aim point down over here and put it roughly where my pretty face is. You'll notice that there is a little bit of shadow on the gizmo, and that's useful so you can tell in 3D space kind of where things are. See, that's in front of the billboard, that's behind the billboard, and I want it to be focused on my pretty face, so I'm just going to put it in my mouth like that, or maybe just off to the side. Yeah, okay. The camera does actually have depth of field, and its focal point will always be the aim point. So at the moment, we're focused on this aim point. And if we go back to scene cam, you can see it's focused there. You can still move it around inside scene cam, but be careful because it kind of gets crazy at the moment. I'll try and tidy that up for you. So I've set the initial position of the camera and its initial aim point position. Let's go back to page edit and start to animate those. So I'm going to animate the camera movement. For clarity, I'm going to go into scene edit so I can see what's going on. Or rather edit cam. Switch cameras between scene camera and edit cam. So right at the moment, the movement input mode is set to static, which means it's not doing anything. So I'm going to choose a curve, and I'm going to choose 3D point to point. Now, just like the single parameter curves, this will start at the start point and at the end point based on the curve. But there are 3 numbers now because we're working in 3D space. So if I just start changing the numbers, you should be able to see the camera starts moving because it's going from X0 to X149 in this case. And I could edit the other numbers and do that. Just editing numbers is a little cumbersome though, so I've included these transform object aim point buttons here where you can choose manually with a gizmo where things start and end. Now if I choose scene cam, you'll see that the camera is executing a camera move. And that's pretty cool. I'm going to slow it down a bit, give it 0.25. Nice. With these values input, I can also select a different curve. This is 3D point to point. I've also got point to point sine, which will do the move and then bounce back. There are a variety of curves and you can screw around with those and see which ones you like best. Let's zoom in a little. Right. Now I'm going to animate the camera's target movement. I'll actually slow it down a lot more. And I'll slow down the tilt as well because it's still a little bit fast. So this is very similar to animating the camera movement. Once again, I'm going to go to the edit camera and I'm going to hit start and end. We don't have a debug line yet because the input mode is still static. I'm going to choose curve, point-to-point sign. So that is the point that the camera is looking at. If we choose scene cam now, you can see that it's doing that. Doing it really fast. I'm going to slow it down. I'm also going to choose wander, which is a kind of quasi-random thing. So give it some more height as well, which is generally the z-axis. So now it's like NYPD blue, steady cam, shaky cam, unsteady cam. And again, slow that right down so that it's a little bit more ambient. So that's a pretty good camera move. And that's a good camera setup. I like that. I want to keep that. That's living on the default page. That's cool. So I'm going to make a different camera move. Now, I'm going to do it on a different page. So I'm going to add a page. And this is a duplicate of whatever your settings are at that time. So it's basically duplicating the page you were on. So on page 2 now, I've got all these movements, but I want a completely different movement. So I'm going to go to movement. I'll just go back to edit cam so I can see what's happening. I'm going to choose circle right. So you can now see that the movement of the camera is describing a vague ellipse. And by using the start and end points, we can adjust where that's happening. So this looks like it should go all the way around me. If we go to scene cam, we can see that it's doing just that. The camera is orbiting my head. We're still getting the wandering motion, except that now I want to increase that on one of the axes. There we go. So it's wandering around more in 3D now. And that's our second camera movement. So if I turn off debug up here, which is the little lines to help you know what's going on, I can now switch between those pages. We've got 2 different camera moves. At this point, it might be nice to use another method than clicking on those page buttons to assign the pages. By default, pages are hardwired to the number keys on your keyboard. So if I hit 1, it goes to this camera. If I hit 2, it goes to this camera. But you might not want them there, and that's okay, because they can be assigned. This little at button is where you assign controllers for each of your pages. Now, I could assign keyboard keys to these, but StrangeStream also accepts MIDI input. I have a MIDI keyboard right down here, and I'm going to assign these to 2 different keys on my MIDI keyboard. If I hit the assign button and hit a key, it'll learn the input, and as soon as you're happy, hit accept. So this is note C5 in the middle of my keyboard, and that's been assigned note C5. And then I'm going to assign this to D5, the next note along. And now, using my MIDI keyboard, I can just sit back and switch between those 2 cams. Pretty cool. You can also use MIDI control for any other thing in StrangeStream. So we've got a static zoom at the moment, but if I set the input mode to direct, we get the little assignment button as well. So I'm going to assign that to a slider on my keyboard, which is controller number 49. I'm going to accept that. And now on the slider on the keyboard, we've got full control over the zoom of the camera. And you could do the same thing with tilt. You could do the same thing with exposure. Really, you could do the same thing with movement. Only I find it's better to animate with curves. Otherwise, you're constantly twiddling stuff. You can do it manually if you really want. The facility exists. Still got a debug sphere over there. Let's try and get rid of that. There we go. So that's the basics of animating parameters and assigning parameters to control inputs, and creating pages and assigning pages to control inputs. That's how you do that. The next thing we're going to try is adding moving lights and static lights, and animating those with loops and with direct input as well. So without further ado, let's add some lights to the scene. We're going to go to Scene Edit again, and lights are a target object. I'm going to switch to the Edit Cam. I'm going to show debug, and I'm going to position my camera roughly where I want the light to be. I'm going to put a light over here, And I'm going to add a target object from this menu, which will put it just in front of the camera. It's okay, we're going to use static light stage. So I've rigged up a few different target objects that are lights that actually have a physical light, so you can see the light. But we'll be providing loads of abstract lights that are invisible as well. So as you can see, the light's in the scene, and as previously mentioned, we can move it by right-clicking on the object, hitting the transform, using space to tab between the different parameters of the gizmo, and either rotating it, moving it around. I don't think this responds to scale. Well, it does. You make the light huge or tiny, it doesn't matter. Oh, that's fine. I'll leave it like that. Now, the gizmo has another couple of secret command functions, which I'll tell you about now. On the N key, you can switch between world and local space. So this is important for if you want to move or rotate things on different axes. At the moment, this is world axis. So if I want it to dip, it doesn't matter which way the light is turned. It will always rotate on that axis. But if I hit B, you'll be using the light's local axis. So you can tilt it on its local axis and then rotate it on its local axis. And N is snap. So if I wanted to rotate it by 90 degrees whilst hitting N key, it's much easier with that snap. And snap also works for things like move and for scale as well. So I'm going to toggle N off because I don't need snap anymore. So once again, this is a target object. It accepts control, so we're going to make a controller for it. And I'm going to call that imaginatively light 1. During that brief intermission, my cat, the cheat, has joined me. One thing we do recommend if you're doing green screen streaming at home is that you kill all your pets immediately, because they are annoying little bitches and will ruin every shot, no matter how much you love them. So I've made the controller for the light, imaginatively named light 1, and I'm going to assign that controller to the light right there. And as you can see, everything turns off because now it's taking its data from the controller. And we're going to go to page edit. And in our default page, we're going to enable light 1. And the first thing we're going to do is set the color to, well, I guess we can go for a kind of blue. It would be nice. Let's do that. And you notice that the billboard is taking the color because, like I said, the billboard is actually a physical material in the scene. At the moment, it's a little bit glowy. So if I turn that down, we can actually see that it's being lit by the blue light. And we can edit the intensity of that light. We can make it less or more. Just go back and add a bit more color to myself. And you can do all the static things, and that's great. But we want to animate it. So just like previously, for intensity, we're going to animate the intensity. So we're going to go to curve, and we're going to select, fast 1 down. And in time with the beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's following the curve, going from 0.93 or 1 down to 0. And again, we could invert it and have it going from 0 to 1, which would mean it would just blink every so often, just the same as you can with every other curve. And we can edit the speed of that as well, so we can do that kind of thing. I'm just going to leave it on a sin. I don't want it to go all the way down, so I just have it pulse from quite bright to not quite bright. And the light's physically in the scene, so you get reflections on it, and you can see the light actually has a flare on it as well, so it's a pretty decent light. We don't include shadows with lights at the moment. This is a performance issue, and I will put lights with shadows in eventually, but you can get away with like 50 lights without shadows, but only like 3 lights with shadows on a medium grade PC. Perhaps we'll find a way to optimize that, not for the moment. And also, this environment is particularly dusty, which is why the light is showing up so brightly. Again, we'll possibly include a way for the user to influence that as well. So that's cool, but suppose I wanted more than one light to be controlled by the same controller. Like that one light is not enough. Okay, no problem. I'm going to go to Scene Edit. I'm going to right-click on the light over here. I'm going to hit the D button for Duplicate. Now I have 2 of them. Oh, there are 2 of them. This is getting out of hand. And I'm going to use world coordinates by hitting the B key, and I'm just going to move the other light over here. I'm going to rotate it around, and there we're lit from two sides simultaneously. And this light is being controlled by the same controller as that light. You can see the assignment was copied over as well. So we've got two lights that are assigned by the same controller. Going into page edit, I'm going to start doing crazy things with them. I'm going to set up pages that are just for this light. So I'm going to make a new page. I'm going to disable, once I switch to it, disable the camera because I only want this page to affect the lights. So this is the original light. This is the blue light. And I kind of like that the way it is. That's fine. And then I'm going to make a new page. And on the new page, when I switch to it, I'm going to animate the color. I'm going to switch the color to curve. And there are a number of preset color gradients that you can use to cycle through. So I'm going to go with something like this, which is pretty awesome. I could do this, which is pretty awesome. Right now, there's no way to edit which colors you animate, but I'm going to provide that pretty soon. And it's also possible to switch between colors. So there's no way to cycle through colors at the moment, but you can switch pages and the pages have different colors. So these are on different pages now. We can switch between the pages. The lights change and the camera doesn't change because these pages are only reading the lights. So I'm going to assign these the same way I did previously with the cameras. The camera assignments should still be notes C5 and D5. Yeah. So that's my camera assignments working fine. And as you can see, when I do that, the lights aren't changing. But if I assign these to another pair of keys, let's say G4 and A4, then I can change the lights without changing the camera completely independently. Or by hitting both keys at the same time, I can do it at the same time. And we've still got things like the zoom on the slider acting completely independently. So now we've got lights in the scene which are responding to page changes. I want to edit the intensity of those lights by a direct assign. So I'm going to use the direct mode instead of that sine wave. And I'm going to assign that to a controller, number 48, which is a slider on my keyboard. And you can see that's going nicely at the moment, but I want to put my start point down to 0 so I can choose to completely turn off the lights if I want. So that's on a slider now. And I want to put this across to this controller. Now, as I mentioned, if you create a new page, the controller assignment will stay, but this is being run by a curve, so this overrides the direct controller. And I want it to behave in the same way as the previous one. You don't need to set it up again. You can see these C and P buttons all over the place. These are copy and paste. So I am going to go to the intensity module, parameter module. I'm going to hit copy. I'm going to go to the next page, go to its parameter intensity, and hit paste. And you'll see there that now the intensity assignment has been copied over, and that is fine. You can see that that's responding to control 48 now, the same as the other page. So I've got my lights on a slider on my MIDI keyboard. I've got the zoom on a slider on my MIDI keyboard. I got the cameras working absolutely fine like that. I'm just going to disable light on page 1 because as you see, the lights changed there because on the default page, the lights are enabled. We don't want that. The lights are completely independent now. I said the lights are completely independent now. And I can change the color completely independently and move the slider at the same time. And in general, we've got a very active dynamic scene. I just noticed that the zoom assignment is not working on this because it is set to static. So again, we're going to go to the page where the zoom assignment is set as direct, copy that, go to page 2, paste that in, and the zoom assignment is there. So now no matter what camera I've got selected, I still have the zoom assignment running and I can still control the zoom from the slider on the keyboard. Jolly good. So there is a third type of object that you can use in StrangeStream. I'm going to go to Scene Edit and I'm going to start adding some static objects. Static objects do nothing. I'm going to go to the Edit cam and I'm going to add a static object. Actually, I'm going to add it with my mouse cursor by right-clicking somewhere over here, create static object. And you get a fabulous list of all the static objects that I've currently included with StrangeStream. What shall we have? I think it can only be the giant babby. So this is a giant babby that I made. Well, it's not giant right now, but it will be. I'm going to make it giant. This is a little child's doll that I made for a prison map. Don't judge me. And I think that babby would look good if I just had it giant and stuck here, sat on the desk. I think that would look good right there. There is a an arc ball in the middle of the rotation sphere, so you can rotate it kind of freehand like that. And babby will pick up shadows from the scene and lighting and things like that. And I think that's a perfectly good addition to our scene now. So static objects will just sit there, do nothing, and look horribly creepy. Again, I could duplicate the object. I can move it, scale it, rotate it around. Nothing like giant creepy dolls everywhere. And you can have quite a few objects. Just have him looking over my shoulder there. Yeah. He's looking pretty good there with the lighting from the scene. Yeah, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Perfectly good. Perfectly good scenery. What are we doing? And they'll be lit by the lights and that kind of thing. Oh yeah, that's real good, real creepy. And that's just it. There's scenery, there's basic shapes in there, so there are blocks and cylinders and things that you can use if you want to start with a blank stage, which is provided to pretty much make your own scenery. And we'll be providing hundreds and hundreds of things for you to play with. Office furniture, stage furniture, beach furniture, all kinds of stuff. But the point is, they just sit there, they don't do anything, they're not configurable or animatable in any way, it's just set dressing. So, let's get back to the more animated objects. I'm going to go back into Scene Edit and start adding new stuff. There are a wide variety already of target objects. What's fun to look at? We've got a Glitterball. So this is an example of an object that is really it's just a mesh, it's just a model, but I've put some extra functionality in it, which is the lighting. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to put the glitter ball up here, I guess. Get it centered up. That's nice. And glitter balls have to rotate, right? So we're going to give it a controller object, and I'm going to call it glitter ball. And I'm going to assign that to this. And of course, it turns out now this is just a mesh object, but like I said, I've put in extra functionality, which is the lights, so they needed controls as well. So I'm going to go to Page Edit, and on our default page, I'm going to enable the glitter ball. And color 1, I believe, is the light color. So I'm going to, have a pink glitter ball. That's going to be awesome. And I think one of the parameters here is the intensity of the light. Yeah, so that's animatable like that. And of course we have to rotate it. So I'm going to rotate it just using setting that to curve. I'm going to have 3D point to point because we just want a start and an end value, but this is rotation, so it's 0 to 1. That's not the way glitter balls rotate. It's not that axis either. It's the x-axis. You can tell because the blue arrow pointing up and the blue arrow at the end there. And I'm going to set that down at 0.25, something like that. So we've got our fantastic glitter ball and we've got our giant babies in the background, and this is brilliant. This is exactly the kind of streaming space that I wanted when I was growing up, when I was a little boy, 54 years ago. And all the controls are completely unaffected, although we are now moving through the giant children. So we should probably adjust those cameras at some point as well. But we can zoom, we can turn the lights on and off. We can have a giant baby party right here in the cyberpunk room. These tutorials are getting rather out of hand, but still it's reasonably fun. Let's try something else. Particle systems, explosions, fire, smoke, things like this are very easy to do in video games, and we provided a bunch of those for you in StrangeStream. So I think I'd like to set everything on fire, which seems perfectly reasonable thing to do at this juncture. So I'm going to add particle stage fire. Oh yeah. So that's a one-shot effect, and these target objects often have more than one thing in them. Because I want to provide you with sets of stuff. So this is just stage fire, but it has a couple of effects in there. So that's spurt, and this is fire line. So I'll set a fire line up in the background, I think. Now this can be moved around the same as any other object. I'll go to the edit cam. So we're going to move this over here, and we'll just have our entire bar set on fire, I think. That'll be reasonably cool. Now, many of the particle effects do include their own lighting. I've chosen not to include lighting with this one because I might want to do a few of them and it might get a bit heavy. So I think that's fine. I'm pretty sure this also responds to... Yeah, it responds to vertical scale as well, so I can make this a very tall fire. Yeah. So it's looking pretty good. It's kind of like a weird grill going on there. I'm barbecuing my beer. And inside the config, you can also edit manually the transform of the object. So particle systems don't respond the same way as meshes and models to scale, but they will respond a little bit. So I'm just set it to like 6. That's pretty good there. And I'm feeling pretty good about that fire. So I'm going to duplicate that, but this one I'm going to use the other fire in the target object. Which one is this? That's this one, that's this one. You can identify things by just using a transform object. Okay, that's this one. So I'm going to go and have a spurt. Holy moly! And I'm going to edit the scale of that to be the same as the other axes. That's fine. I'm going to place this down here. Now, this one needs a controller because we want to operate when it runs. Actually, this one needs a controller too. We'll do both of them. We're going to do fire 1 or fire line. And we're going to do fire spurt. And we're going to assign, that's the spurt, that's the line. So we're going to assign this one to spurt and this one to line. And we're going to go into page edit. And we're going to set them up. Now the particle systems have turned off because now they're receiving data from the pages. And I'm going to enable fire line. Now this has many parameters that are the same as other objects. We can animate the scale of it. We can animate movement, rotation, color. Some particle systems don't respond to color. This one, I haven't yet set up color, but it's not unreasonable that you might want green or purple fire. So I will set that up. I think that will probably respond. Actually, did I already set that up? Does it respond to color? No, it doesn't. That's fine. There are arbitrary parameters, which are not named. I will document those in the description for each target object so you can find out what the parameters do for each thing. And I don't think the parameter for this is set up. So we've just got the basic parameters, which is speed and trigger. Every particle system has a speed, so you can speed it up or slow it majestically down. And again, these can be assigned. So I'm going to leave that alone and we'll move on for the moment to trigger. So trigger is a complicated one. Particle systems spawn other little objects, and as soon as they've spawned, they have their own life, and whether the particle system is still present in the world or not, the particles will continue on their way and do particle stuff. So the trigger is whether the particle system is operating and spawning things or not. So the trigger works by the same way as any other parameter. It has a number, and the number is modulated by the curve, or whether you've got it assigned to static or anything. So we're going to set this to curve. And when the trigger value passes below 0.5, the particle system is off. When it rises above 0.5, the particle system is on. So, as you can see, it's kind of pulsing right now. If I slow this down, you can see it more clearly. It's on, it's off. It's on, it's off. That's because this is running down from 1 to minus 0.5. So it's passing through that threshold and the particle system is being switched off. As you'd expect, we can also run this direct. So I'm going to hit direct. I'm going to assign it to a slider, controller number 47. And I'm pushing the slider up, and we have fire. And I'm pushing the slider down, the fire is quenched. Fire! No fire. Fire! Be still. I am the Lord of Hellfire! So, that's how you trigger a particle system. Now we're going to have a look at the other particle system, which also needs a trigger in order for it to work. Fire spurt. So I'm going to enable that. Holy moly! So trigger is on static. So that's not triggering more than once, or rather it's always on, so the particle system runs and then that particle system stops, so it's continually running its course. I'm going to set that again to direct, but I'm going to assign a key, and hopefully that key will trigger the fire. And we can also check do the speed, so we can have a very slow fire spurt if we want, or we can have an immensely quick one. Don't mind me, sir. No more curried eggs. So the combined effects of all this stuff are as follows. If we switch back to the scene cam, we've got our animated cameras, which we can switch through with the 2 keys, even though they're currently moving through the children. We could fix that, but I choose not to. We've got lights, which can change color, which are also set to an intensity slider. I'm changing the light color, changing the light color, running the slider up and down. We've got fire, which we can call on demand or banish to whence it came. As you can see, the fire's in the scene. You're getting reflections, getting everything that's involved in the physical scene. And we've got the giant spurt of fire for when I want to call down even more hellfire. Hellfire. That particle system, as you can see, contains its own lighting. I love that you get the wibbles with that fire material. It's pretty good. That particle system looks a little bit big. We're going to go back and scale it down a little. Just going to use edit cam, turn on debug so we can find the particle system. I think that's it down there. Okay, so the collision shell for the large baby is overlapping the fire object, so we can't reach it by right-clicking, but that's okay. We can just use the transform button here to reach it, and then we can have a look at the scale there. Now I can still trigger it while I'm editing, so if I do that, I can start to scale it down. Not even working? It is. There we go. And we have a more manageable, tiny little spurt of fire. And you can see the light radius is smaller, everything's smaller. It's just a little difficult to see how it's being scaled. You just got to go carefully. If you really want to see how it's scaling, you can look at the numbers in here. Oh, I see that it's not completely uniform, so I'm going to match that up a bit. Right, so we've got our fire spurt now nicely scaled where we want it. Again, if you want more than one, you can just duplicate it. We are going to have to go and right-click this, so I'm going to go inside the baby object like this. You've got to go real close until you see this faint wireframe around it. That'll let you know that you can click on it. I'm going to duplicate that and got this one. So I'm going to put that over here, and I want to duplicate it again. Again, I'm going to make sure I can roll that over. Duplicate it once more, and all these are being controlled by the same controller. I'll put that over there. Let's have it in the bedroom way over there. So now when I hit the same controller, because it's running all of the fires simultaneously, we should see a giant... Oh yeah! Oh yeah! And if you wanted those at different timings, you just create different controllers for all of them. You can still link it to the same key, but they would be different timings. We never animated the Glitterball. I'm going to go back to the Glitterball and do some more crazy animation because it's 3D. You're not limited to real world things. So I'm going to go to Page Edit. I'm going to go to the Glitterball. I'm going to give it scale, a direct assign to a slider. So I'm going to use direct here for the scale. I'm going to use at controller 46. So now I can scale the Glitterball until it is giant or not. I can adjust these until that's not crazy. So I can just flick the slider up and down. Oh, I mustn't sing that. Be sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we have a variety of different things happening now in our scene. We've got the Glitterball, we've got the lights that we can turn on and off, we've got the fire which we can turn on and off, we've got camera movements, we've got the giant spurts of flame. How much more do you want? What's that? A shitload more? Well, good, because there is a shitload more. I will be doing more and more tutorial videos as we add more into StrangeStream. But I think that's possibly enough for now. I could give you the fireworks, I could give you the raining dollars, I could give you the bobbly love hearts, but you'll have to wait for other videos to see those. So, thanks very much for watching, guys. Don't forget to smash that like button, or whatever it is the kids do these days. And hit me up if you would like to become part of the development of StrangeStream. I'd like that very much. I'd like to participate with users and try and make StrangeStream more accessible for everybody and get people using it. I say I'm really tired of watching boring videos and images in the background of streams. So I'm Strangelet. You can get hold of me and the links below on my various social media incarnations. And you can also check out Melody Boy Toy TV on Twitch every Sunday at 8 p.m. GMT, where we do the Meltdown with Melody, which is a music show that we do where we use StrangeStream for our stage and construct all kind of crazy rock stages. At one point for the Valentine's edition, we had Melody emerge from a giant clam in the ocean, like Aphrodite, and various other silly things like that. I can't wait to see what you guys do with StrangeStream and the inevitable bugs that you want us to fix as well. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Zoom out. Play all the fire. Do your outro. Hit some buttons. Fade out. See what I mean?